let's just put it this way for now. Redecision is the way to go back to the moment when you made a script conclusion for safety under the gun, so to speak, and that the redecision is that moment, if you can get to that moment, where you clearly, without contamination, can make another life decision that is a corollary to the one you made, being that, if you were a 4-year-old who had an incest experience, that you go back to the incest experience, and instead of concluding, I hate men for the rest of my life, I will make them pay as a script decision, you may go back and you go in another direction, you see? So that moment you go back to, and then you say, this is what I decided. I will hate men forever and I will never trust them. Incest, whatever. But you go back there and you go, okay, let's go back over this again. That would be the core elements of where redecision could be understood to begin with. Okay?
Would that then come from, you would have to go back to the child ego state to identify exactly what happened, but then you would make a redecision from adult, because you said without contamination. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
The adult would come in to reevaluate the child conclusion made with the child's mind.
Okay.
And with no protection or support at that point in time to be able to take a healthier decision, Okay. Incest with daddy, I went to mommy and she told me that I was crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I chose to be crazy. If mother thought I was crazy, then I was crazy, so now I'm crazy. Okay, are you crazy? No. But you decide you were, and your script was, I live my life as a crazy person, So if you get...
To decide to be crazy, that's a script conclusion. Sometimes I'm not exactly clear what script
I think sometimes it is. Sometimes I think it is. Or I'll let myself be my craziest. I'll let my craziest part run my life, for example, because I think everybody has a little bit of crazy in them, But that's my opinion. So I don't know if you think that too, but crazy borders on creative sometimes, So just to keep in mind, those are really good questions you're asking. They're very good questions. Well, it would be the social script would be tragic, but people can have tragic scripts at all levels, can they not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you have a lot going on in your life, when it's very dramatic.
Can you think of a character, maybe a public person who has a tragic script?
Well, the Kennedys.
That's a good one. Spell it out. How come?
Well, all the deaths in their families and...
How come they have deaths?
Maybe it was passed down as kind of like a script that was passed, or a hot potato, that people have to die at a certain age. I mean, it seems like this whole family, so many people are dying, that is something that could be passed down.
I'm wondering, when I think about that family, whether they have a message from Joseph Kennedy, the grandfather. It's sort of like, you can do anything, but it means taking huge risks and often getting away with things. Like Edward Kennedy had a very tragic experience with the drowning of Mary Jo Kopechne, I think her name was. But some of them died in ski accidents. So, it's sort of like John Kennedy Jr. died in a plane accident because he did poor judgment on what he could or couldn't do in a plane. So I think sometimes they have a message like, you can get away with anything, or you can do anything. And so it can end up tragically because they take too many risks.
Mm-hmm.
That fits. I thought about that when you mentioned the Kennedys. A very good point. Can you think of other public figures also who have tragic scripts?
For example, maybe the Jackson 5 family, because they came from, probably a poor Black family, and then they have all these developments and their successes.
Yeah.
And then Michael takes his own life. And I'm sure that's also a lot of probably drugs and everything with the siblings.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's like a
and
family.
the father who was a real, whipping them into shape kind of father. So, again, self-destruct could be part of that too. That's a good point you're making. Very good. What about someone you know personally? Is there anyone you've worked with or someone you know who has a tragic script?
I think it would be if a child dies.
Well, that
If
would,
your child,
see, that
what?
would be an event rather than a script.
Oh,
I'm sure you know the difference between a child dying is tragic, but it's not necessarily a tragic script. The script would be
right.
look at the messages through the family and how that plays out in something that ends up tragically. So be clear about the difference then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that these people that were in World War II or the Holocaust, like, for example, my aunt, she has always been depressed, and her son is depressed and wanted to take his life. She was depressed all her life, and I think his children are also depressed, or some of them. So that could be a tragic script.
Well, that's a very interesting one. The fact that someone's in the Holocaust isn't necessarily in itself tragic, right? I mean, some people come through that and they still are okay. They had a tragic event.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know anybody that came out okay, who went through it.
Well, I did for the Shoah project, I did interviews with survivors for a couple of years, video interviews, and there were some of them who did.
Yeah.
Well, some of it depended on the age they were when they were, well, they're not all in the camps, but whatever happened to them, the ones who didn't have a childhood, for example, because they were so young, were different from the ones who had had a loving family and a stable life and were a little bit older, but they had, already good messages. Because there's a tragic event and then there's a tragic script. So let's be clear on the difference, okay? Because being in the Holocaust, you could consider a tragic event for someone if they got caught in it and they haven't. But how they live it out and then what they pass on to the next generation would make it a tragic script. Because some people come out of it and say, look how well I survived, and I'm very lucky that I did, and I did the right thing, and it worked out for me, and I'm going to protect my children, make sure that never happens to anybody else again. That would be a different outcome, wouldn't it? Because we're talking now about Claude's work, I think we should just stay within their generalities. What's the difference between a tragic script and a banal script? What are these different kinds of scripts he's talking about? What does he mean by joyless, mindless, loveless? I mean, what does that mean?
So how he explains it is that if you have a joyless script, that you are not in touch with your body. So it can cause addictions. Often you see addictions with is drug addictions or alcohol. And for example, if you have a headache, you take a pill very quickly, so you're not in touch. So
does joyless script also include people who believe life is sad and tragic? They don't feel joy?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, maybe you want to keep that in mind as well. Sure. There's some, I have a friend I call her the glass is half empty friend, So the first thing is that she talks about what's lugubrious,
What's lugubrious? What is that?
Lugubrious. It means mournful.
Oh, okay.
It's like, let's talk about what's going wrong, So kind of a joyless attitude, even though she's somebody who's very much in touch with her body, and she can,
Okay.
but I think there's also that feature to it as well.
So you would call that a joyless script? Yeah.
I would, yeah.
Okay. He says, for example, the injunctions would be: don't be happy, don't feel your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
These are related to a joyless script.
Right. Very good.
Incapable of feeling love, ecstasy, crying. So maybe not being in touch with bodily and emotional feelings.
I think that would be a little bit more accurate. That's right. Good.
Okay.
Very good. Tell me about the mindless script and the loveless.
The mindless script it can turn into madness or going crazy.
Uh-huh.
And the injunctions are really like, it can be: don't think,
Correct.
don't be important, discounting transactions.
Mm-hmm.
They attack the child's ability to think. And then they get a mindless, it can be that they feel stupid even.
Think they're stupid. That's right.
They think they're stupid, being stupid or crazy, no willpower, being lazy.
Well, basically not using the adult to solve problems of life, huh?
Yeah, but would that be for all of them?
No, mindlessness. It means you don't use your adult to solve problems.
Okay, yeah, like don't think, don't.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Think of anybody either in your personal life or a public figure who you think might kind of look like that, but don't think, or mindless.
Well, I feel in a way maybe there's an aspect in my mother, because she always feels like she can't do something, like she's not smart enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of projects that out, and I wonder. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes, because sometimes I feel that myself, like I'm very capable and I'm like, I can't do it. And when I say that to my children, they're like, Mom, you can do that. And then I realize that it's not almost from me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe more like a hot potato. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I can do it if I put my focus
part
to
of it
it.
also to be able to think about yourself, about what's inside of you, to be aware of it, but also to be thoughtful about what's your inside dialogue in your head,
Yeah.
So that would be a mindless also.
Well,
I think there's some joy in being able to think things through, and also to see your own responsibility in your life. People who are mindless think that things happen to them rather than they have something that has to do with the outcome of any event in their life.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's get to
The Loveless. Well, the Loveless is really the depressing one. People tend to get depressed, and it has to do with a lack of stroke system.
I find sometimes that people where they were born out of an unwanted pregnancy or unplanned pregnancy or unexpected, menopausal babies, sometimes have that loveless script, because the parent, they pick up from very, very young that they weren't wanted and not fully loved, so that's one form of it that I think is not uncommon. See, when we look for script, we look for the same repetitive drama over and over again with the same payoff, the same outcome, right? So, for example, someone with a loveless script maybe would get involved. Let's keep it out of the parents right now, maybe with a friendship or with a boyfriend, but select the kind that would be sure that she would end up rejected, so that she would then feel unloved, which would promote the loveless feeling. Okay. So scripts are about how you live out your life. Remember, they're a predictor in childhood of how you select who you love or don't love, what kind of work you'll do, whether you'll be happy or not. All of those are kind of built into the script. Pulpit said, I think is that what Eric called it, but the beginnings. Okay, they're the predictors for what you might act out unconsciously. So that our work in doing script analysis is to make it conscious and aware enough that people can make a choice, or as the Gouldings called it, to redecide. But you have to first know what's going on. Why, how come I keep having the same drama?
So can you see that in a child?
Sometimes. Yeah. You could see that in a 14-year-old girl, probably, you know. Well, I think part of this is for you to get good diagnostically right now, to be able to use TA to apply it when you are working with someone. So when you do body work with her, what is her presenting issue physically or health-wise?
She's pretty heavy, so she's always struggling with weight.
Okay.
And she has a lung project.
Lung.
Yeah, she has a lung project. Yeah, and it can cause pain in the body, and it can cause a lot of problems. But she is maintaining it really well. It's a gentian, so she doesn't have that many symptoms.
Okay. Well, I think what you could do right now is just talk about how she handles this from what ego state. Let's start with ego states. What do you notice about how she manages this disease?
This disease? I think she manages it from nurturing parent because she takes good care of herself. But she also has a tendency to get depressed. And she's been very hurt by a relationship that she was in, and she has a very hard time letting go. Very hard time.
Okay. So I think part of it is, tell me, let's just do this from the point of view of how each of her ego states operates. Like nurturing parent, critical parent, adult, rebellious child, adapted child, natural child. How about if you just tell me what you notice about each part of those ego states?
Well, starting where? Starting with the child?
Sure.
I think that she has less of a rebellious child. And she has a bit of an adaptive child. That's why it's hard for her to get out of this situation with this guy, because this guy has not treated her, I guess, very well over the years. And then he took another woman, a younger woman, and kind of abandoned her. And she still was helping him when he got sick. And so that's kind of adaptive. Well, even the other woman was in the hospital. So she was still helping him and carrying him through all the way. And she doesn't have a lot of like rebellion, like I feel like really standing up and pushing back.
Okay, I'm not going to bother with you. You're with another woman.
Oh, yeah.
But she doesn't do that. Okay, very good.
It's very hard for her, yeah.
Okay, what about her adult?
I think she has a very good adult because she has done an enormous amount of work on herself, spiritually, psychologically, physically a little bit less, I feel, because she's overweight and, you know, she can eat a lot, I think, even though she's like on and off diets all the time. And she has a really good nurturing parent, which comes across in her work, which is really nice because she can hold people and you really feel taken care of by her. Even the way she puts the blanket over you, you know, it's nice. And she takes her time. She can hold the space for someone.
So strong nurturing parent.
Strong nurturing parent to others.
Child.
Yeah.
Critical parent?
Less. I mean, truthfully, she is one of my favorite people. She is a wonderful person. And like, I never feel judged by her. And I feel like I can trust her. I don't always feel exactly supported enough by her. Like, I feel she could, but maybe she just can't. Maybe because she doesn't have the energy. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, but when I'm with her, she's always, I feel, yeah, very, very nurturing and not a lot of critical parent, I feel, towards me.
Now, when it comes to the adult, remember that the adult is like the thinking machine, but both about what's out there, but what's inside too. So is she a person who can talk about what's inside of her as well as what's outside?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that's the adult.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a very good adult also, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can see why you see her as a likable person, because she has a good nurturing parent. She uses her adult, and she's an adapted child, which is always easier to be around than a rebellious child.
She's wonderful, but she's struggling, and that's why I wanted to use her as a case study. What?
What is she struggling with?
She's struggling mainly with, she's very hurt by this relationship with this man, and it's now already, I don't know, a year, 2 years that it's over, or more, maybe more, and she can't let it go. And I feel also like the weight and everything, that's all related to letting go, and it's very hard for her.
Why doesn't she let go? What's your guess?
Well, that's an issue of attachment, abandonment fears, and some sort of attachment. So that comes from her childhood then.
She holds on tight.
Oh yeah. So that's the part that comes from her child.
I think you did this really well.
Yeah?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good for you. You see clearly the ego states now. You can see it now.
I'm a good teacher.
Well, take the credit.
Thank you. We can give each other a stroke here and there.